Test,
Yep.
test, test.
There you go. Perfect.
Hey, Pete, here's you.
All right. Awesome.
Damn. Tight.
All right. So everybody try to unmute and we will talk to you. Oh, wait, now I'm muted. Sorry. Hang on one second.
Ted's drinking beer.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. We're going to get rolling here. So what we wanted to do here was just sort of get everybody together and kind of do a check-in on where everything's at. It's obviously been a weird year. There's been an event, but not all the events we expected, or none of us are doing what we expected. So just sort of want to get the viewpoint of you pros and you event directors, some of the challenges that you've been facing, kind of what you're looking at going ahead, and really just not let Grvl sort of pause while everything else is around it. So who we have on the phone is, who we have on the video is Amy Charity from SBT, Bobby Wintle from Mid-South, Burke Swindlehurst from Crusher and the Tushar, Lyman from Dirty Kanza, Rebecca Rusch from RPI, Amanda Nauman should be on, and Colin Strickland, Kaysee Armstrong, Payson, Pete Stetina, Ted King, and then Steve Matous, who is the executive director of NICA, is going to join us as soon as his board meeting is over in a few minutes. So one quick thing that all of these event directors have done, and you'll hear about tomorrow or Monday, is they have each donated an entry to their 21 event that will be put together for NICA for a golden ticket to Grvl. So nothing like this has been done before, where somebody can literally win a guaranteed entry into the biggest races of the year, right? So as you all know, that's a pretty coveted thing for, well, maybe you pros don't know, but all the rest of us Joes do know how difficult it is to get in. So that will be a fundraiser for NICA that we'll see some information on soon. And thank you to all the event directors for being willing to do that and support the organization. So let's dive in. In the scope of your event history, guys, we're going to start with the event directors, and I'm going to hit a few of your questions. In the scope of your event history, how hard has this year been? And Bobby, let's start with you. You are obviously first up. Your event went forward. How tough was it? Because you sort of had your event just as all this was going down.
It was insane. It's been insane every year because we always try and up the ante, you know. But obviously this year, Wednesday evening. So Wednesday evening is when the Utah Jazz were playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, and most of the time I don't know anything about professional sports, especially the NBA, because I'm very short and I'm very slow and I can't jump very high. So anyway, the NBA got canceled that night, and that was about 9 p.m. on Wednesday before Mid-South was slated to happen, and that's when the pedal hit the metal with pressure. It was like, oh, our entertainment is at stake in the United States of America. Okay, now everyone is going to be paying attention. So people were already in town. Victoria was in the same hotel room as the Utah Jazz team in Oklahoma City that they had flown in for their big national sales meeting. So they immediately called that next morning, polled. So I mean, needless to say, we ended up with half the participants we thought that we were going to have. We had 3,250 slated to be here, and we had about 1,400 take the start line. So less than half. And yeah, we bought more hand washing stations right out of the gate. So we had those peppered all over the place. And you know, questions about aid stations were popping up about hands on, hands off. And of course, none of this became a question until Wednesday evening. And so Thursday, it's just like, okay, we're already slated to try and launch the spike with salsa. We've got inside activities happening. The city was talking to me about what the expo was going to look like, if we could change how it was going to look. And I told city government, I just said, hey, you tell me, we are either fully on or we are fully off. Like I'm not in a place right now where we can change little bits and pieces to try and make everyone happy. Like I will do whatever you tell me. And if the hour before the event, you tell me that we're not on, then I will do whatever you say. So, I mean, obviously everyone in this group and everyone here has either been a part of a big event or they are the owner and or, you know, directors of said event, and they know how much stress is happening anyway. So just throw in a global pandemic, 2 nights before. It was insane. The hardest part though, man, was the internal moral dilemma was just ripping me to shreds, and our whole team. We didn't know what to do. We didn't have any guidance from any big government entity at the time, because it was all happening right then and there. So just to say this, it happened, but honestly, it doesn't actually feel like the Mid-South happened this year. It feels still like a bit of a dream, and it still feels like what we had planned and how many people I had in my mind. I thought we'd have, at least for the first time, 6,000 people downtown, waiting and just ready to just party and celebrate and see these racers come in and cheer on the DFL. And it felt like year 2, maybe year 3, as far as participants and the vibe, and no one was hanging out. So anyway, we were just right on the cusp. I can't believe we got the race in. I still have no idea what the right answer truly would have been. I think that we were in a position where we had no right answer. And if we would have been 24 hours later, that we wouldn't have had the race. So it was crazy. It was nuts.
So Amy, you had to cancel, unfortunately. What, how obviously in your event history, this isn't going to be a good one, but how tough was it in your second year, even just getting really off the ground with the success of the first year? How tough, how much of a curveball was that?
Yeah, no, it's huge. We looked at really what all of our options were, and could we hold this race and keep everybody safe? And really, we realized that there was no way we could guarantee the safety. My 2 partners and I sat down one day and went through, what does this race really look like if we need to do temperature checks, and if we need to space everybody out, and all the different protocol and examples that we were getting. And we just came back to, this isn't going to be fun. And we founded our race on values of fun and safety were the top 2. And so as hard as it was to make the decision to cancel, it became a no-brainer after we went through that exercise. So we've had a fairly positive response from our athletes, and they understand what's happening, and we feel that it was a responsible decision, both for the athletes, of course, for the volunteers, but definitely for the community of Steamboat. It's a small town, and we weren't told that we couldn't have a permit, but we still think it was the right thing to do. And they were grateful when we called city planners and managers. They were really grateful that we did cancel.
So Rebecca, you would be up next in the schedule events, and then LeLan, obviously hearing Bobby and Amy and the challenges that they went through. Rebecca, what's going through your mind as you are looking, trying to put your event together? And LeLan, same question for you after Rebecca gets to answer.
Well, I think Amy stated it really well, and you guys know about my Grvl shark ethics that I put together of how I operate my event, and S stands for safety. It's the number one. It's the number one consideration. All of us, none of us ride our bikes to risk our lives. We all ride our bikes to enhance our lives, and if one or many bike rides can't happen for the health of my hometown community, for the health of the riders that I care about, everyone on this call, then that's it. And so we are like SBT Grvl and Amy going through the practice of, can we provide a safe event? And if the answer is no, then the decision will be an easy one. Well, not an easy one. The decision will be a logical one. And so absolutely that's the factor that we're all looking at right now is, number one, the safety of my community. And as you know, we're a very, very small mountain town. At one point early in the pandemic, we had the highest infection rate per capita in the entire United States. And that's because we're a tourist community, and a whole bunch of people came here and brought the virus with them. And what I know now is that, an estimated, on the low end, 25% of people who are infected don't show signs, never know they had the virus, and could potentially be spreading it. So there's some really considerations that are a lot different than just people having a cold or being sick. We just don't know. And so, yeah, like Amy and SBT, Grvl safety is going to be the number one decision-making factor for us.
LeLan, how about for you and DK?
Yeah, I think it's probably easy for a lot of folks, riders, participants to lose sight of the fact that safety is all we think about as race promoters pretty much every year. Here in Kansas, we're thinking about tornadoes. Every year when we run an event first weekend after Memorial Day, there's a good chance a tornado is going to drop down right in the middle of a pack of 1,000 riders, right? And so we're always fighting against that. If it's not tornadoes, it's where do we need water barriers to prevent auto terrorists from driving into a mass crowd of people, active shooter situations, all these types of things. So in some ways, this safety conversation isn't all that different, but it is really different because it's a virus, and this is a safety threat that we haven't even put any ounce of energy into thinking about prior to this year. So it brings all kinds of new things to think about and figure out on how we run our event, or if we run our event. But like everyone else, I don't think there's any question that not only those on this panel, but most promoters across the board are always going to think safety first. And it's not just the safety of our riders. Of course, we love our riders, but Emporia is my home. I've lived in a few other places, traveled around, but this is where I was born. This is where I was raised. And I've had the good fortune of coming back to little old Emporia, Kansas to help make Dirty Kanza a world-renowned event. And so you better believe I'm thinking about my dad and my grandma and my cousins and my friends and everyone that lives here year-round, and the university that is figuring out if they should even have school this year. Last thing we want to do is jeopardize everything that happens after a potentially postponed Dirty Kansas. So there's so much to think about, so much to try to figure out. But then you also have to think about the health of our economy. Emporia has come to rely on our disc golf tournaments and our DKs and our Grvl events, and businesses could potentially shutter their doors, and businesses could be lost forever if DK weren't to happen. And so, man, is it tough, and is it complex, and is it stressful? We're not 3 days out like Bobby, thank goodness. But I feel like you've all seen Austin Powers, where the henchman is standing in the hallway and Austin's driving that steamroller at 1/3 of a mile per hour. Get out of the way, get out of the way. And guys, that is what I feel like right now. It's just like, hurry up and come crush me already.
Well, so yeah, figured that would get Bobby. So for the pros, and Payson, you get to be up first because you have won the only big event so far this year. Well, I guess Pete, you get a nod in there too. But with the lack of this scheduled certainty and the unknowns, what have you been doing to stay motivated?
Howdy, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Cool. Well, yeah, when you win a race, there's a certain level of momentum that you gain from that. So I was still kind of riding a high just as I did my training after Mid-South, despite knowing that the season was likely going to be on hold for a while. And it was a very strange time emotionally and psychologically because, as I started listening to the news every morning and learning more and more about the scope of the situation, there's certainly a level of, low grade, I don't want to say melancholy or depression, but just there's sort of a general malaise, I guess. And so I was definitely feeling that, but I also, had amazing form and had a highlight, and that kind of lifted my spirits. So it was this weird sort of oxymoron. But that said, I'm a rider that enjoys training at least as much as racing. I think that's been a secret for me in regards to sticking with the sport and staying in the sport, is I really, really just love the process of training and the daily grind. And so in terms of staying motivated, I think I've probably had an easier time than some. But that said, it absolutely comes and goes still. For a little while, I used the early season residual fitness to go terrorize the local Strava segments. And we have such an incredible professional racing community here in Durango that it just became this bloodbath of Strava racing for a few weeks. And then after that, I think we all kind of got over it and are changing course a little bit and looking for new challenges. Rebecca did something really incredible the other day, bringing a lot of us together for her Giddy Up for Good challenge. And that was a big carrot to chase in regards to keeping up some big miles. But I also really enjoy content creation. I have my podcast. I have, some video projects, and those keep me engaged and kind of maintaining a level of, I guess, a semblance of a work day. And, at the end of the day, there's no shortage of challenges for bike riders, even if they don't involve number plates, whether that's, fastest known time attempts or exploring new trails or getting into, bike packing or different disciplines for the first time. So it's certainly been an adjustment, but I think one of the strengths that I've felt so far of our cycling community is seems like a lot of people have been good about coming up with ideas that include others, even if we are separated. And so personally, I've benefited a lot from that. And, folks like Rebecca continue to motivate me to try to come up with ways to do that for others also. So all in all, it's been hard, and I would much prefer to be racing right now. But generally speaking, it's been not an all bad change of pace, if that makes sense.
Yep. Amanda, how about you? Amanda Nauman.
Hey guys, it's good to see all of you, first of all. But yeah, it's a good question, and I would be lying if I said that I was super motivated this whole time. I definitely haven't been. It was for sure a struggle through the end of March, that's for sure. And then I think as soon as we realized through the end of summer was kind of thrown away and we needed to pivot towards something else, I think it's just a matter of changing goals, and that was how I was able to stay motivated. You just pick some different projects to start working on. Doesn't have to be event-based, and luckily I have sponsors like a lot of the other athletes on this panel that I'm sure were saying, hey, no events, there's probably some other things that you can put on your calendar, projects, video projects, whatnot. So that's kind of what I've been staying motivated with. Originally, I had planned to do this big FKT thing in the fall anyways, and it's actually given me time to focus on that, which is nice. I probably would have been a bit more scatterbrained with all the other events and not been able to focus on it. So yeah, that's been fun.
So Colin, same question to you, especially as you'd be 2 days away from lining up to defend your Dirty Kanza title from last year.
Hey everyone. Let's see. I unlike many racers, I am not really a training process driven person. I love racing. I like riding and I love training, but that's not really my passion in life. I'm too distracted. So I've been finding it a little hard to maintain fitness per se, or race fitness, but it's given me kind of a leash to kind of chase other projects in life. But yeah, it's been interesting here in Austin, and like a conservative state with like a liberal populace, kind of navigating it. Yeah, sorry, a little scatterbrained.
No worries.
So yeah, it's kind of hard, say, because again, I feel like I've let the fitness kind of drop off a little bit. I don't think I'd be ready to race competitively and win Dirty Kanza this weekend, but we're not doing that. So yeah, I think eventually with the smoke will clear. No one really knows when. It seems like no one knows when it's going to be PC and safe to hold mass start races again. And I think being in Grvl, this is a unique event where it's not just entertainment, it is a participatory model, whereas we can't just have a pro race with 50 of the top riders. That's just not the point, and it will never happen that way, being that Grvl is completely driven by community aspect, and that's really at the heart of it, even more so than we're just kind of the little entertainment sparkle at the front of the race, but really it's about everyone who's there completing it. So I'm curious to see what the promoters think, because that's really would be your decision. But I can't imagine we would have one of these events with just, a bunch of pros who got tested for COVID racing the event, with no one else there.
Good question. We're going to come to that in just a couple of minutes. So Kaysee Armstrong, how about you? Since you're I guess you could say a multidisciplined athlete like Payson, what have you been doing to stay motivated with the year that is going to be more complicated too, right? With everything compressed into the fall for the most.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you guys hear me right now? Am I showing up?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I feel like, Payson and I are very similar in that we both race mountain bike and gravel and probably almost anything you can ask us to race. But it seems like I'm a little bit more on Colin's side with I'm definitely not chasing training right now. And I enjoy racing. I enjoy adventures a lot. And honestly, this COVID has been able to allow me to be at home exploring new routes. And sure, I'm not in race shape, but I'm always out, doing 6-hour rides. And what Rebecca did this weekend was amazing, because it wasn't like I was really fit for something, but it was a goal, and that felt good again to chase after that. But yeah, it's hard to be motivated to train right now, because honestly, it is hard to imagine doing an event anytime soon. I sure hope we do, but at the same time, it's really nice to see people like Rebecca and even Amy. It's just hopefully we can make events where maybe we're not all together, but we're doing something and conquering a goal. And it's hard to be super motivated. I'm definitely on Colin's pace right there. It's just I don't know what I'm training for, so why am I going to go out and do a 20-minute interval? I'm probably just going to go enjoy the day and do a 4 to 6 hour ride. So it is hard, but also I love making new content and motivating other people, and it's given me a chance to be at home and be in my community a little bit more and motivate them. So yeah, just day by day, seeing what happens. So yeah.
Yep. And so Pete, you might be you have the unique distinguishing quality here of being beaten not once but twice by mountain bikers this year. So how are you staying motivated as you're crushing KOMs too?
I'm just visualizing getting Payson and Jeff Kabush back. I ride out of anger and hate every day. No, yeah, it's really interesting hearing everyone talk right now, because you realize how all of us racers and the promoters, we are an entrepreneurial and very creative tribe, and it is. I'm the same as everyone else, where I am pivoting a lot of things and trying to create alternative content for people who are interested in my career change, and for sponsors that have put their faith in me. I feel indebted to them that they've stood by me. So, that is a major focus of mine. I have a couple of fun projects coming up that'll be announced soon. I'm just trying to, it seems like a switch flipped recently in the last week. And I have started training again, because whether or not the racing comes back, there will be some things happening in the near future. And even that is just enough motivation to start pushing. So all that stuff will be announced soon. And in the meantime, one recent big unforeseen expense is I have gone down the whole van life wormhole, which is an addictive and horrible thing. But I realize it's also me just trying to do my part of the entire COVID situation. So I can, I think air travel and hotels are going to be one of the last things to come back online. So, I'm trying to be self-contained. I can get to events when all these good organizers here finally have an alternative plan and a best practices, so I can do my part and still show up for myself and my sponsors. And yeah.
Good deal. So looking at you and Bobby
Everest.
looking at you and Bobby and Payson, I feel like I made a mistake shaving today. All right, so let's see. Let's go on to now. Grvl. Somebody said it. Grvl is really about community and partners. And how are you all keeping community and partners involved and creating that sense of spirit? And Ted, I know I thought you came up with a very clever idea. So do you want to start with what DIY Grvl is all about?
Sure. And man, Pete, two things. One, it's a hands-free mic, so you don't have to hold it to your mouth. But two, we are probably going to copy you because we've been talking about getting a van. And so well done jumping on that. Although I suppose we're just all copying Payson because he's been doing this for a while.
Do I have to say after I talk?
Over. Stand by. Yeah, I mean, the genesis of DIY Grvl was, I wear a couple hats. One is as an athlete, one is as content creator, one is as event promoter with literally wear the shirt, Rooted Vermont. And it became such a bummer to see these events come and go. Like they're getting pushed off the calendar or down the calendar or off entirely. And, how do you still honor an event? Because collectively there are thousands and tens of thousands of people among all the events who had something on their calendar, like beginning April 18th with the Rasputitsa, beginning like everybody who is going to do Dirty Kanza knows exactly what May 30th is in 2 days. Like, how do you still promote something and make something positive here? So, I reached out to my sponsors and said, hey, I'd like to create a giveaway, create a contest, make it something that everybody could be part of. And another hat that I'm wearing now is as the marketing side of Untapped, the sports nutrition company that I co-own. We're getting a ton of requests for sponsorship of virtual challenges now. And, there's a virtual challenge popping up all the freaking time, especially as events are canceled. And, there are an abundance of them. DIY Grvl is virtually the same thing. So I totally recognize how saturated that market is. That said, it's amazing, this community of folks who want to be part of it. As of today, we have over 3,000 entries over the past 2 months. The number is only going up. So it's a cool way to be part of a community. The outpouring of support, the notes that are coming out are absolutely, they're incredible. It's like, it's a thankfulness for doing this thing, which I'm just scratching my head saying, like, all I'm doing is telling you guys to go ride your bike. So, it shows the collective interest of a community. People are happy, people are riding, all things good on two wheels.
Good deal. LeLan, so you actually, DK had one of the first, I guess, cancellations, if you will, with your camp, with the camp that was scheduled in April. So what have you been doing you obviously have sponsors, partners, lots of people to keep happy as well as riders. What have you guys, what are you guys doing in the interim as you're obviously not canceled yet, but you've got a gap, right, in your timing that you had to make up for?
Yeah. So for camp, we pivoted and went virtual. It's one of the most obvious options, but we used a platform called Kajabi, which is absolutely brilliant in my opinion. And if you didn't get to see that virtual camp, it was pretty fantastic. We had basically we recorded and live streamed various seminars, mechanics talks. We put routes out there, it showed some footage. There's all these kinds of things you would have normally seen at camp, and then some things that we wouldn't have normally done at camp. And it worked out really, really well. It was just a $10 charge to join, and Lifetime kept no profits. All the proceeds went to the Greater Emporia Area Disaster Relief Fund, which is supporting businesses that are struggling through this time of coronavirus. So it was a really cool deal. And that led us to explore more opportunities with this specific platform. And we're doing our virtual expo this week. In fact, that's live now. So the All Things Grvl Expo is a big, big component of Dirty Kanza. Many, many people are calling it the Sea Otter of Grvl. We were slated to have upwards of 150 unique vendors here this year. It's a sizable expo. And with that, because of the size and the number of people here, a lot of brands are launching products at the DK Expo. And they lost that platform. They lost a big part of their strategy of we wanted to use DK Expo to communicate this. Well, now we're giving them that opportunity virtually. And so if you get on to the virtual expo, which is of course free, no charge to get in there and participate in that, you can look at all the sponsored booths. There's a few different categories. So there's sponsor booths, you click on that, and it's going to give you every sponsor or exhibitor that would have came and wanted to participate in this content. From there, you can break it down even further. For example, bikes. You can look at all the bike sponsors, and there's something like 6 bikes being given away through various competitions and contests and things that they're doing. There's the expo stage. So much like you would see on a stage with presentations and talks like we've done in the past in the Granada Theater, you're gonna see TED Talk style conversations and panels going on that you can tune in and watch, things like that. You could even see, I think Saturday at 6 p.m. there's a DK merchandise fashion show featuring Jim Cummins and yours truly. Watch for the comedy if nothing else. Get some DK merch. And then on top of that, you know, Ted already mentioned the do-it-yourself Grvl. Lawrence Tindam is doing his Dirty Canceled this week, and it's pretty fantastic. And I've been trying for like 4 years to get that guy to come to DK, and every year he'd tell me, oh yeah, I'm going to retire this year, and then I'm coming to DK, and it took 4 years, and now he's retired and was going to come to DK, and we may not have a DK for him to come to. But anyways, so virtual rides, ride where you're at kind of stuff. And then just content creation. You know, when I put my owner of Grvl City hat on, a bike shop here in town, we've been doing a series called Grvl Exchange, where we're talking with Grvl promoters, enthusiasts, influencers from around the globe, and just doing a video chat and sharing a little bit about the events that they're doing and bringing worldwide Grvl to our audiences, so folks can at least feel like they're learning new stuff. And we've got content from the Dirty Jutland in Denmark, you know, Jeroboam in Italy. You may even see Ted King and Rooted Vermont, even Amanda and Dave in there. And anytime Ted and I get together virtually or in person, you can better bet there's some syrup being consumed. So
nice. So Amy, how about you? What I remember seeing some stuff via email that you guys have planned. How are you keeping connected? And again, especially as a second year event, you know, you guys really hit it last year, but obviously that's got to be a touch scary, knowing that you know, things really pulled back.
Yeah, we're really looking to keep the riders engaged and keep something on the calendar. So we think that's important. Something and a reason to continue to train, especially for the bulk of our audience where they just want a reason to go out and ride their bikes. So we've come up with SBT VRTL. It's our virtual ride that will happen on August 16th. And we've identified cities across the US where we'll have routes that are available. People can choose to ride those routes or ride any route that day. So essentially, we're trying to ensure that our sponsors stay engaged and we have an opportunity to really promote their product, and then also our riders to have a reason to train, to stay motivated, to feel like, gosh, if I have 140 miles that I'm trying to do in my hometown, I better stay on the bike. So that's the idea, and in places wherever you are, you do that virtual ride. So it's certainly not the same as all gathering together in Steamboat, but we think it's a good option given the situation and what we're able to do.
Yep. So Bobby, obviously you guys would be past at this point, but you're also a shop owner, and I know you really sort of drive the interest level in your community. How are you keeping your community and, you know, and your partners involved? Not only in the COVID time, but just, you know, you occupy that first spot of the year, right? You got to keep everybody occupied with all this other stuff going on too.
Yeah. So I mean, we've obviously traditionally, if regular events were happening, we've done, you know, like Dirty Kanza talk nights at the shop, or we honestly though, we have 5 group rides at a minimum that leave district every single week, and of course they're all canceled. They've all been canceled. A few people have met on our traditional Monday fun day at the Grvl lot, you know, a couple blocks south of the shop, and done a Monday ride on their own terms anyway. But what Seth Wood came up with that I was so blown away by, we like to make fun of things, and we like to make plays on words. And so everyone, I'm sure, is aware of the brand Supreme. And so we came up with Surpeme a while back through, I don't remember how we came up with it. But anyway, Surpeme, Surpeme with the little dash over the top. And so we made bottles that we wanted to disseminate to spread the Surpeme across the world before Mid-South. So they were available in the shop, but then of course a lot of people didn't come, so we had a lot left over. So Seth was like, why don't we come up with this Ride with GPS calendar of however many routes we decide we want to come up with, we can just keep adding them. And then people have to hashtag Surpeme Ride Solo Challenge. And then if they did 3, they could get a bottle. If they did 5, they could get the whole package of old Land Run and new Mid-South zines that Seth has always done by hand. And so we gave like little carrots. And so now if someone does all 10 of them, which is like over 500 miles at this point, then we haven't even decided yet, but we're going to do something special for those people. So we're going to keep pumping that and keeping it going. We didn't really we didn't partner with any sponsors. And I'll be honest, we closed for about a week after the race just to decompress, physically clean the store because it was full of mud. A bunch of French fries were left over. I don't know where those came from, Payson. Anyway, just kidding. So we just had to clean the shop and get our heads on straight. And I had to get my voice back because it was gone for like 2.5 days. And so after we opened back up, we have been pedal to the metal. It has been full on, $500 to $1,000 bikes out the door, as many as we can do in a day. And we're running out of bikes actually right now, which is crazy. And I know it's happening globally, which is phenomenal, but also like really wild and not sustainable. But anyway, we haven't thought forward really. I haven't been able to chew on anything to tell you the truth, like to sit here and say I have like some professional idea of what's supposed to happen next March and something to keep obviously all of our partners and sponsors happy. I don't have anything right now. I'm going to keep looking to the community and to my friends and pushing things like DIY Grvl that Ted has come up with. Like, we don't need to recreate the wheel because, dude, Ted, like it's an incredible idea. We've got the local challenge thing happening for specific routes, but like you created something that I think we can all use. So depending on what's happening in the spring, I just want to say this, there is absolutely no replacement, like Amy said, for being together. Being together is why this is also popular, because we get to see where we stack against others, where we get to stack against a certain course, against ourselves, whether the conditions are crazy. Like, there's no replacement. There's no virtual, there's no online platform that can do what all of our collective events and all of our collective personalities bring to a space and a time. And so, like, obviously I want it to be safe and I want things to go back to whatever normal is. But right now, like, for 2021, I'm a little bit lost, and I think that's an okay thing for us to feel.
So let's talk about events, going forward, or what 2021 or this time might look like. What does socially distanced Grvl look like? How does that stoke? How do you preserve that stoke of all the reasons that people were drawn to Grvl in the first place? And again, Rebecca, let's start with you because you would be up next. Love to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay. What does it look like? I mean, I'm with Bobby. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. What I do know is, and this was part of launching Giddy Up Challenge last weekend, is that I needed motivation. I love to ride my bike. And I keep going back to why we all ride, why we started our events, especially Grvl. Where did the initial motivation come from? And it was exploration. It was going, the Grvl less traveled, going off the beaten path. And there weren't a bunch of people around. And so I keep going back to the core. And, I've said this before, but there is no roadmap for where we're going. So, when you ask me, what does a large Grvl event look like in 2021? I don't know, because we don't have a trail map for this. We've never been here before, but we have our internal compass. We know why we launched our events. We know why we personally ride. And that is really what Ted is doing, what I did with Giddy Up Challenge. It's like we can't create what we want, what we had before right now, but we can create something that still meets our goals, meets our sponsors' needs, meets our personal needs. You know, I needed motivation, just like, you know, Amanda was saying. I wasn't motivated to ride my bike as an athlete. And so the initial Giddy Up Challenge was for me, like to get off my butt. And it turned out that other people needed that same thing too. And so you're seeing a lot of us are in our own different way. We're still trying to check the box of why we're here. And I think as we grasp for answers and how it's going to look, I just keep going back. For me, I just keep going back to why I ride, why I launched my event, what riding means to me, and how we achieve those goals. What the tactics are to get there, I don't know. But I just have to keep going back to what's in my heart and like the genesis of Grvl and you on a bike and what that means, and together with 1,500 people. But if we can't, we still are so lucky. We can safely ride our bikes. We can get outside. We can have that spiritual, emotional connection, and we can connect with each other digitally. It's not the same, but it's way better than not connecting at all. So that was kind of a non-answer, but I'm just using my internal compass to guide me. And I don't know how it's going to look.
Yeah, so I think I want to open that question up to everybody, and then I want to give a chance. We're running out of time quickly here, we promised. I know you all have, a lot of you guys have to run at the top of the hour. So I want to throw that question out to everybody else, if you've got a thought on it, and then open it up to media for questions. And media, if you have any challenge asking the question, just type it in the chat, and we will ask it for you. So anybody else want to chime in on that?
I'd like to say one thing. You know, one thing that really surprises me is I am blown away, like I said before, by the creativity of this group. You know, I'm not worried about the future of Grvl right now, because there's so much still being invented and there's so many ideas. And I mean, I talked to my colleagues from the World Tour, and they're just sitting at home listening to their employer telling them to get on a Zwift ride here or there, and there's no backup plan. If the tour doesn't happen, they're in a bad way. This whole group right here, you guys are continually reinventing. We're pivoting around, you know, Everesting ideas and FKTs and everything in between. You know, whatever the best practices are around Grvl, you're not in a peloton at the end of the day. I think it's just really going to be, you know, the start finish festival, which is the best part of Grvl. But I mean, soon a lot of places will have groups of up to 50 people per se. You know, after 20 minutes of the race, you're more or less socially isolated. So it's really just going to be about, you know, how do we have a best practices around aid stations and that start finish. And I mean, I don't want to be alone and, you know, having to eat a pre-boxed meal and go home. You know, that's not the point, but this group will figure it out. And I'm really bluntly not worried.
Anybody else want to jump in on this one?
I'd just like to say I really appreciate that positivity, Pete. I've been so impressed with the attitude you've brought from a world of structure and rigidity, and the way that you've I mean, I wouldn't say that you've changed and adapted because I didn't know you before. Maybe this was just your right home all along. But really appreciate the kind words that you have for the community there. And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think all of us have some entrepreneurial tendencies, and that's probably one of the reasons that we're all doing better professionally and you know, psychologically during this time.
So I think Reba's exactly right. The beginning of Grvl was exploration, right? You think about the Trans Iowas and the early Dirty Kansas. It was about exploring. Yeah, they were races, and we oftentimes announced a winner, but man, that was so secondary or tertiary to what the real point of the whole thing was about in the first place. So for 2021 and beyond, I think you're going to see some more solo pursuit style stuff. You know, and Reba's a shining example of someone who continually reinvents and goes and finds new challenges. So I'm going to put a challenge out there, and this challenge is first and foremost to Bobby and myself. and then to some of the athletes here, and then out there all over the place. But we've long thought of something like a Grvl the Great Plains. You know, you think of a Tour Divide style challenge, which is an iconic route that can be completed at any time. You can have a time trial records and record keeping on it. Well, Grvl stretches from Canada to Mexico and either direction. So we've, for years, probably 10 years, Bobby,
Yeah.
of connecting a route from the north to south border of the United States. And so maybe there's challenges out there for Grvl specifically that are ultra long, even individual-esque or very small group style challenges that can be presented. And I think promoters and athletes alike are going to have to say, man, you know, are we leaving even the 200-mile rides for something that looks a little bit more like this? Come on, Pete. I see you.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. There you have it, folks. Grvl the Great Plains is no longer just our secret. Here we are.
10 years is a long time to keep that to ourselves.
How about the Northeast, Ted? I remember you mentioning something that you have planned along these lines.
So this weekend, I'm going to be doing a 300-mile ride, which is not, well, 312. So, you know, Dirty Kanza is often such a big part of my season. That's sort of how I got into this whole Grvl bit. So while I wanted to do a full DKXL, I'm connecting the northeast corner of Vermont to the southwest corner of Vermont, and 90% gravel roads. It'll be probably about a 20-hour adventure, but I've never ridden more than a mere 216 miles once. So who knows what happens in the next 100 miles. So yeah, I mean, stuff like that is motivating me. And you know, that's coming on the heels of, I announced that probably 2 hours after we announced that we were canceling Rooted Vermont this year. And that, you know, to go from a real low to putting that out there, and just the outpouring of support was pretty tremendous. Because I mean, this is a new reality, and I don't want to get dour because I love the positivity of this group, but like, instead of thinking about what events are going to go on later in the fall, like, we need to be thinking now about 2021, what that looks like, because it is a far cry what we've seen in the past. It's not 2019. Like, it frightens me. And so, you know, the positivity here and doing things independently, it's both fun and it's a stopgap in a way, because at the end of the day, like, we are a community. What's been really fun about this group and hearing everybody talk is, like, I've been on a bunch of event panel meetings, and then I've done things individually, like done Pete's Swift ride. I've been poorly texting Payson for the past couple of weeks. And so I'm paying attention and communicating with you all, but this community is so cool because it's drawing together bits and pieces from the entire cycling community, minus the entire masses, which is why we're recording this. You know, it's a new reality, and it's one that we are leaders, whether we are event promoters or athletes or ambassadors. People are chomping at the bit so hard for something to do, and that's the success of Giddy Up. That's the success of DIY Grvl. That's, I mean, good grief, how many people went Everesting this past weekend? It's nuts. And we need to be the change we want to see. And, you know, that's going to be a sobering reality for a bit.
All right. Anyone else want to jump in here before we let you? Yeah, good ones. Yeah. Who wants to follow that up? Do we have any media that want to ask a question? I have more. We have more topics, but we want to give you guys time in case anybody wants to ask a question. All right. Burke, we haven't heard from you. I think Burke, yes, I see T-Bird in there. So Burke, where are you at thinking about, you know, hearing what Ted said, hearing about you as a former elite athlete as well as an event director, you know, where's your head in all of this and where everything is right now?
Geez, I mean, that changes from moment to moment. Honestly, I just keep coming back to, you know, it is tough not to get down sometimes, and I've definitely had my shares of ups and downs the last couple of months. But I keep coming back to the fact that we as human beings, we're very industrious, and there's a reason why we're at the top of the food chain, and we're gonna figure this out. It's gonna happen. We're gonna persevere. I have no doubt about it. And things are gonna look different. You know, trying to figure out what best practices are gonna look like for our events, and you know, just kind of everything. The greatest, I'd say, the greatest thing right now is the fact that we're kind of stepping into the unknown, and that's super scary. But it's also kind of exhilarating. And I'm personally excited to see what comes out of this, not just from the terms of just cycling and gravel events or whatever, but like, how's the world going to change? You know, are we going to put our best foot forward and innovate and find new ways to interact and enjoy each other? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I personally, I'm pretty, I feel pretty positive about what's ahead for us, and I'm really excited to see what it's all going to look like, because I know we're going to innovate, we're going to do stuff. It's going to happen.
Excellent. So we probably have time for one more question, and I'm going to throw a completely different curveball in here. We're going to do a little Monday, well, not sorry. We're going to do a little look back. I want to hear from the pros about the race that you have gone the deepest in, whether you won or lost, and then throw some numbers out there. Everybody, well, some people love to geek out on numbers. So the race you went the deepest in, whether you won or lost, and then give us your power and your kilojoules. Colin, why don't you go first? Because you, again, would be racing this weekend or defending this weekend. So let's hear it.
All right. Race that I remember going deepest in was attacking Ted at the Rift Iceland last year. That was probably the deepest I went all year, to put some, like, make a crack in the end of that race was so hard. Yeah, Iceland. I don't remember the effort exactly, honestly. Let's say a lot. Mucho.
Ted, since you got name checked on that, you wanna go?
We got a baby. I'll be quick because she's just waking up and we'll probably cry. So mine, I was actually looking this up today. A 200 on 100 is Chris knows it well. It's a ride from the northern part of Vermont to the southern part of Vermont. It's 200 miles entirely on one road, which I was looking up this stat. We did it in 2015, 216 miles at 9 hours, 32 minutes, which means you're going 22.7 miles per hour. That was a ridiculous day, which is akin to a dirty Kanza, which I think I did 275 watts for 10 hours and 34 minutes until Colin crushed my previous award-winning time. I'm glad to hear it, Colin, that you went deep there, because as you slowly and then quickly rode away from me, I was empty. 1,000,000 kilojoules. How's that for an answer?
Good answer. All right, who else? Who else wants to go? Give us some more numbers, guys.
I have some numbers from Iditarod Trail Invitational. So that was moving time 140 hours in Alaska, and my coach Tim estimates 91,000 kilojoules of in 140 hours of riding / walking. As far as power, I don't know, because I didn't have a power meter on my bike, but and I was walking half the time. But I got that one.
All right, you win the kilojoules for sure. Who else wants to go? Pete, Payson, Amanda? I know you guys are power geeks.
Go Payson.
I was just going to say, quick segue with Rebecca there. I mean, the deepest I've ever gone physically and psychologically was the White Rim, fastest known time effort I did. But in terms of numbers, I went somewhere I hadn't before on Monday, thanks to Rebecca, and that was 11,000 kilojoules in 15 hours. And also 30,000 feet of single track descending. I'm almost like more scarred by the 30,000 feet of descending than the climbing on single track. So Rebecca, thank you for being totally crazy and inspiring, and making us all short race folks do wild things. That was fun.
Anytime, Payson. Anytime.
Kaysee, how about you? And then Pete and Amanda.
Well, I do actually have a really funny story with two of the ladies on here. It was at Rebecca's race, but I guess my highest KJs would actually, I'm along with Payson on Saturday. I think it was 14 hours for me to get 30,000 feet, and it was like 9,000 KJs. But my best story of like the deepest I went was 2 years ago at Rebecca's Private Idaho, and I was winning the stage race, and then the last day, which is 100 miles, I guess like 40 or 50 miles in, maybe even sooner than that, I was in the lead group, and I really had to pee, and I thought, I'll just pee right here. This is a great idea, and I'll just catch the group. Like, it won't be that big of a deal. But I'm a mountain biker. That was a very poor decision. So I like peed, and I never caught the group. But like at mile 60 or 70, I thought, oh no, like I've lost this entire stage race because I peed. But I caught Amy, and I told Amy, I was like, Amy, if you'll work with me, I swear I'll let you win this. Like, I'll let you win this as long as I win the stage race. I need this. And I just remember the two of us working so hard together, and we passed so many guys, and none of the guys would help us, and we got really frustrated. But the last climb, we saw Kieran, who was in the lead, and I was like, okay, Kieran, or we're coming for you. And I was like, Amy, let's go. And she was like, no, go without me. And I was like, no, come on. She's like, no, you got this. Just go get her. And I just remember being super motivated and like dug so deep, caught Kieran, and then it was a sprint finish, and the moto guy got us on film, and that was pretty fun. So yeah.
That was
Amanda,
such a
how about
cool
you? Amanda, you've taken a few scalps in your time. How about you?
Yeah, I had time to actually look up my numbers. But I always think of the 2015 Dirty Kanza because that was the mud year. And I think I went the hardest that year because at the riders meeting the night before, Rebecca was on stage and she was like talking about how she's this diesel engine and she likes chasing people. And I was so scared. Because like right away in the mud in the beginning, I got away. And like literally for the next 14 hours, I was just thinking, she's going to catch me at some point. But yeah, my normalized power was 183 for just over 14 hours, which isn't that crazy, but for a girl, it's pretty good.
And Pete, that can be a gravel race, mountain bike race, world tour race, whatever you choose.
Oh, the deepest is probably the in the world tour, the Stelvio stage of the Giro. 1 year we did the double Stelvio, the year Tom Dumoulin pooped on the side of the road. I was there, saw that in person. But just climbing it twice, it was something crazy like 17,000 feet of vert in a 200K stage. It was just stupid. Yeah, just totally empty. There was also the year that Ryder won the Giro on the Stelvio, and I helped him, but the team was so concerned with him that they just kind of left me to my own devices, and I had to get up the Stelvio after selling out for him with just a little can of Coke. And then I got to the top, and I had doping control, and it was snowing, and I got really sick after that. In gravel, last year at the Belgian Waffle Ride, attacking Ted. So I think there's a theme here. Hashtag everyone attack Ted. That was high power, forceful. There was a hard day. This year, it was Bobby's Mid-South. I mean, that peanut butter mud, it was like a 6-hour hill climb. I mean, you had to earn every pedal stroke. If you coasted through a corner, you stopped. So for the Watt geeks, I mean, I'm a light guy. I was probably like 140 pounds there, and I averaged 300 watts for the day. That was insane. And Payson verified that with me at the finish because he was also blown away by those numbers. I remember having that conversation. Tomorrow I'm going to have a big one. I'm doing Lauren's 10 Dams Dirty Canceled. I'm here in Lake Tahoe, and I'm going to Burning Man, Black Rock Wilderness, home of the Burning Man. It's going to be quite an experiential journey. So that's going to be the next big day of the year.
Excellent. Well, I know it's very late in the UK. Thank you guys in the UK for joining us, and thank you all of the athletes and panelists for joining. It's an hour. Promise to keep it tight. I hope there was some good conversation here. I think, I think everybody appreciates the amount of thought and effort that you guys are all putting into trying to keep the genre going and just representing it so well. So thank you guys again, and hopefully the next time we will see each other on the road. All right. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.